In this episode of Locked On Hurricanes, I am joined by Jess from Locked On Hurricanes as we preview the Hurricanes and Flames' respective seasons and give our takes on the others' teams.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, I'd like to thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Wednesday evening. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes and myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. And as I mentioned, I am joined by Jess from Locked On Flames in this episode where we talk about each other's teams, preview each other's seasons, talk about roster moves that each other's teams made. Do we think our teams are better than where they were last year? How the teams have fared in recent years as compared to years past, as well as give predictions for each other's teams in this upcoming year. So enjoy. All right, folks, I am joined by Jess from Locked On Flames, and it's time to talk about our teams. You know, both of our teams made a lot of off-season moves this off-season. We both have very different looking teams than what we did when we last saw them. So, you know, first off, what are some of your moves and your upgrades that you had this off-season that stand out to you?
Yeah, so obviously, the first one was, I guess technically Eric Goodbranson signing with Columbus in free agency, and then a few short hours later, Johnny Gaudreau was announced to Columbus, and that was a tough pill to swallow, especially when we learned a few days later that him and his wife were still considering Calgary. Really up until the 11th hour. And I was just so sad about that. And I'm still so sad about that. Mainly because Gaudreau is just a fantastic person and his family is wonderful. And his wife is Meredith is a NICU nurse. So she works with all the little sick babies, and that hits close to home for me. So like I'm just attached to them. But and obviously like the hockey side of things, losing 115 point player does not exactly bode well when you're starting your off season.
Oh yeah.
It just puts a little damper on things. And then so obviously he walks for nothing, and then Matthew Tkachuk comes out and says, Calgary is just not in my long-term picture. And then he's traded. Friday night, I get a notification. Actually, no, that's a lie. I was in bed because I was like, I'm tired. It's been a long week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember this.
Pumping out content. And I was like, I need a break. So I go to bed, I'm playing Animal Crossing. I fall asleep. My boyfriend comes running down the hall and he goes, Matthew Tkachuk for Huberdeau and Uyghur and a prospect. And I was like, can you slow down for like 2 seconds? I need to process what you just said. So, obviously Matthew Tkachuk out, Hubie and Uyghur in, and then free agency rolls on, and pretty much everyone had assumed that Kadri had signed with the Islanders, and that wasn't the case. It was, in fact, he was a free agent for quite a while, and longer than I expected.
I think longer than anyone expected, to be honest.
Right, which is why everyone thought that he had gone to the Islanders, because the Islanders, they didn't say a peep all summer, and that's just Lou Lamoriello's way. And so he signs with Calgary, and then Sean Monahan, He has had an unfortunate decline in his career at a
Mhm.
very young age, just basically due to injury. And he was shipped off the very same day to Montreal. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I would definitely consider Kadri an upgrade from Sean Monahan and really
Yeah.
any of the centers that were kind of floating in that third and fourth line arena. But uh, you know, the Flames center depth
Mhm.
really got stronger in terms of really Elias Lindholm being a fantastic player, and then Kadri, assuming he's on the second line, and then um, Mikkel Backlund, and then
Mhm.
of course possibly Kevin Rooney, or it could be one of the AHL players. But it's it was a tough pill to swallow. Like so much change in such a short period of time after losing in 5 to your biggest rival. I think a lot of fans really didn't have a lot of time to kind of process anything. And then, of course, they're angry with Gaudreau. They're angry that Tkachuk doesn't want to stay in Calgary. Why wouldn't you want to stay there? Because in Florida, you don't pay income tax and you don't have to worry about snow. Just
Yeah,
just
it's
an
not
idea.
cold.
Yeah, it's not cold. You don't need a snowplow. You don't need a heated driveway to melt the snow. But
Wait, heated driveways are things?
yeah, they're a thing.
Yeah, I
I
remember I'm in Raleigh, so, like, snow is, like,
yeah.
not a major thing for me, so, actually, I learned something new. Heated driveways are a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing until Connor McDavid was talking about how he has one, and suddenly I realized that I needed one. I don't have one. I don't make enough money. I don't even know how you would install a heated driveway.
I don't know either.
I live in upstate New York, so it snows like 6 months out of the year here.
Mhm.
But it's the Flames are a very different team. I think that they are a more mature team. I think that they are a highly skilled team. And I think that their defense was something that needed strengthening. And I think it definitely took steps in the right direction. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and, yeah, you mentioned, the Flames being a
oh no, what happened?
on here.
Oh no, what's going on?
Well, that'll be a fun little blooper.
Yeah.
Uh But, the Hurricanes, I see them being in the same boat as the Flames of being a team that is more mature than they were. The Hurricanes, they're getting more and more mature year after year, but one thing, that you look at the roster now, Rod Brind'amour mentioned it the other day in the press conference post training camp, was that this is a very veteran heavy team now. I was literally pulling up the roster because we're another team, a lot of turnover this
Yeah.
offseason. So we got Ryan Dazingle coming back on a two-way deal. He'll be flopping back and forth between here and Chicago. I think he can maybe make opening night roster. I'm still a little unsure on that. But I think there's a shot he could, maybe down there on that bottom line, especially with Max Paccaretti being out, kind of freeing up another roster spot there. You have Andre Kasha coming in, one that everyone forgets about that he's here now. I forget that he's here
I
now.
love him. He's my
I
little underdog.
exactly. I remember it was I think in my second season covering the team, I was talking with JD from Locked On Ducks about a potential trade for that, and now he is here. So very belated on that. But he's a guy that I think he's going to be very interesting to watch here as well. You also have again Max Pacioretty coming in. We obviously won't see him until late January, early February because he tore his Achilles, but he's a guy that a lot of folks are looking forward to seeing because of his offensive capabilities and the Hurricanes struggling offensively in the postseason. I know a lot of folks, were disappointed to see Nino Niederreiter leave in free agency.
Right.
Same with Vincent Trocheck. Those were guys that people really liked, but ultimately didn't come to pass. Actually, at the Hurricanes 5K, Don Waddell said that Trocheck wasn't going to come back regardless. He did not want to be in Raleigh. He wanted to be in a bigger city. So threw a little bit of shade there, I guess you could say. But
Yeah.
yeah, so evidently they knew he won't going to be back for a while. But Nino Niederreiter is a guy that Waddell did say that he wants to try to get back at some point. A lot of folks love him. I remember at the end of 2021 when the Hurricanes had like half the roster out with COVID. Nino was carrying the team. He's a phenomenal player.
Where did he end up again?
Nashville.
Oh,
One
that's
state over.
yeah, that's not okay. I completely forgot that
Yeah,
he
I know. We also had Lane Pedersen come over in the trade from San Jose, which we will talk more about here in a second. You also have Paul Stastny being a late free agent signing. A lot of folks, saw that one as being one kind of as almost a knee-jerk reaction to Paccaretti going out, but they've said that's not the case, and he definitely has his spot in the lineup. I'm predicting him to be on that slotting into that Niederreiter role. They're on the third line with Jordan Stahl and Jesper Foss. That's where I'm thinking he's going to be. That's where he was in the first preseason game. I think that's going to be a perfect spot for him there. I think he's going to do really, really well. And let's see. Now getting over into defensive side of things, the big one is Brent Burns coming over in the trade with San Jose. That was one, the Hurricanes, they've had a revolving door at the right-handed defenseman thing position ever since the whole Dougie Hamilton thing happened, left in free agency. And then Tony DeAngelo came in for a year. He did fine on the ice. He's gone now. He got traded to Philly, signed a deal there. And now it's Brent Burns. So we're on yet another defenseman there beside stalwart Jacob Slavin, arguably the best defensive defenseman in the game. And I think Brent Burns is going to have a heck of a season because one thing that a lot of folks, JD from Locked On Sharks mentioned, he put up 52, 54 points or whatever it was on a bad Sharks team last year. And now he's going to be on a really good team. He's going to be paired with a great defenseman and one where he can just do his thing. He doesn't have to go out there and do everything. He can just do his thing. And he's one that he could very well have a career year this year. He's going to
right.
be in a phenomenal system. Yes, he is 37 years old. That was something that, at first I was kind of like, oh crap, that this isn't going to be a good long-term solution, but he takes good care of himself. He's not, a typical 37-year-old.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing to kind of fall back on because my initial reaction to that trade was, what is Carolina doing? But then I remembered that, he's still able to produce and be a solid defenseman, but then also he's going to have a solid team around him. Like you said, he's not going to have to, wear as many hats as he did in San Jose, but he's also going to have a good goaltender there. So, I mean, I think that that's a solid addition, and I do look forward to seeing how that works out.
Yeah, it's very weird seeing him in Hurricane stuff. I think that's weird for everyone. It's weird going into the team store and seeing the Brent Burns shirts and the jerseys and all that. It's very weird. I think it's going to take a lot of folks some time to get adjusted to. But yeah, he is one that is a massive upgrade at that position from what we had. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do. He's going to bring a lot of veteran leadership. Same with all the other guys that we've already talked about with the team. You also have Dylan Coughlin coming over in that Paccaretti trade. Another guy that a lot of folks have forgotten about. He looked really, really good in the first preseason game alongside Jalen Chatfield, a guy that a a lot of folks are predicting could very well make that opening night roster. And I think that was everyone. Okay, we got everyone. I was afraid I was gonna miss someone, but yeah, the Hurricanes, yeah, they're a very veteran heavy team now, and then also with Vincent Trocheck now being in New York, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, he is going to be slotting into that second line center role. That's the role that they had envisioned for him because, again, they probably knew Trocheck wasn't going to be back whenever they signed him to that 8-year extension. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he can develop in that role. I think, with, and more ice time and that expanded role, I think that's going to really help him. I've talked about it a lot, since he's been here, that he's in a great place to succeed in terms of getting caught up in his development in his career because Montreal, not necessarily the best at developing young guys, whereas the Hurricanes, they are very, very good in developing young talent. So he's in a great spot, and I think he's really going to be able to do good things. You also have Seth Jarvis coming back yet again, took the Hurricanes fan base by storm last year. No one expected him to be on that roster. It was, juniors or NHL for him last year, and he forced the team's hand, and he was fantastic. And he's another guy I expect a massive step forward. I also expect Freddie Anderson to have another phenomenal season. I expect him a bit of a revenge tour, if he will,
Yeah.
this year. He was having a great year last year. Then he tore his MCL there down the down the stretch and missed all the playoffs and ended up not being a Vesna finalist. I think he finished fourth, so he's right on the outside. But I think with the goaltending, you mentioned with Brent Burns of the team having good goalies to put out there for Brent Burns. I think one thing that they're going to have to do this year is balance the load a little bit better.
Mhm.
Freddie is obviously the number one. It's not a 1A, 1B type situation like it had been in the past. That's clear. But I think you do need to ease the workload a bit for Freddie so you don't have a situation like that. Give Ronta some more games. And, you know, yes, they're both kind of injury prone, but you also do have Pyotr Kochetkov there in Chicago. He was great whenever he came up in the regular season and in the playoffs. So it's not like you don't have goalies.
Right.
You know, I think you need to be a bit smarter with Freddie because one thing that was a criticism I had when they made these signings was that you got two injury prone goalies on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
You need to be smart with it.
I was gonna say, poor Ronta. I feel like every time he hit the ice, like he'd come back from injury and then 2 shifts or 2 periods into the game, he'd be out
Yeah.
because he would it just it's one of those things that obviously like you don't ever root for a player to get injured, but you truly root against a guy
Yeah.
having just another injury and after another injury. And I just I don't know. I think Freddie Anderson uh made the right decision by not re-signing in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
And like I think that was a no-brainer, and I also think it was smart for Toronto, and then I also think it was smart for Jack Campbell to kind of get out of there as well.
Mhm.
But I I'm interested to see how this whole system works together this year, especially with as much turnover that they had.
Mhm.
I think the
Oh,
chemistry, I mean, obviously, like, you build
yeah.
chemistry regardless, but I think that the Canes have been so special because they had that chemistry, and I
Mhm.
feel like Dougie Hamilton, even though this is what, year 2 removed
Yeah.
from him, I think that he was such an impactful voice in that room
Mhm.
that, you know, who's gonna take the torch and carry on in Dougie's honor.
Yeah. Yeah, because Dougie, he was definitely a hard one to replace, and, he's had his injury issues there in New Jersey to start out with, but he's again, like I said, it's been a revolving door since he left.
Hmm.
And yeah, Burns, I think 3 years left on his deal, if I remember correctly.
I think
Um,
so.
but it's a long-ish term deal, but again, it's still gonna be something you gotta uh, find a solution for before too long. And I think one thing that the Hurricanes, you talk about rebuilding that chemistry is they have a good culture in place. It's not how it was 5 years ago or 6 years ago. It's not like that. It's not Bill Peters at the helm. It's not, Ron
Listen,
Francis as
you're
GM. Yeah.
Flames fans get it with Bill
Mhm.
Peters.
Yeah.
We know it's
Yeah.
not pretty.
They have a good culture in base, and they have the right guys in the locker room. The guys that you need to stay to keep that chemistry are still there. You still got Jordan Stahl, you still got Jacob Slavin, Jordan Martinook, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Sveshnikov. You still got heck, Brady Shea and Brett Pesce. They've been here.
Right.
Brett Pesce especially has been here forever. And you still have all of those guys. And then, of course, Rod Brind'amour as head coach, and Tim Gleason as the assistant. Now, you got the right guys in place, and now you also very veteran heavy lineup as well. So these guys know what it's about, and I think that's going to be really good for them. And before we talk about how our teams upgraded, and if we feel, these teams are better, two guys that I forgot to mention, they're on PTOs, but I do think they will get contracts of coming back is Calvin DeHaan and Derek Stepan as well. I do want to mention those guys because I do think they will end up with contracts, even though Calvin DeHaan did get salty with me on Twitter a few years ago. But before we go into talking about whether or not our team is better than they were, we do, of course, want to talk about where you need to be placing your bets for this football season. And that is, of course, a Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your football betting info this season. Whether you are a New England Patriots fan, a Carolina Panthers fan, or if you're dusting off your VHS tapes like Jess and being a Dallas Cowboys fan, Bet Online is the place for you where you can find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find. We also have that big top 10 matchup between Clemson and the NC State Wolfpack coming up this weekend. I'm going to be watching that. And of course, as always, Bet Online remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up to the minute scores for every sport out there. It is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, wrestling, whatever. BetOnline is the place for you. So head over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
I love going into the off season with all of these hypotheticals of how teams are going to be better or worse. But now October is just like 2 days away.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to see, were our predictions right? Did the Flames and Canes get better, or were things is it just trouble in paradise now? But I think we can, it's safe to say that both teams are in a good position. I
Yeah.
wouldn't, I'm not going to speak for you and say the Canes are in a better position, but I know that the Flames have certainly obviously upgraded. And one of the biggest things that the team has needed is to strengthen their center just down the middle. They needed to do something to beef it up. And signing Kadri was
Oh, yeah.
that was just like chef's kiss. I would never imagine I would be like, as a Bruins fan, I never would have imagined that I would be happy to have Kadri sign with a team that I'm covering. But
Mm-hmm.
things change. Okay, that also sounded like I was like I'm a racist Boston fan. That is not what I meant. As a Bruins
You're
fan,
good. I know what you mean.
like I just, oh my god. Um because just the beef with him and Jake DeBrusk and just the rivalry there. But I never thought that I would be so excited to be like, this is the guy. Because I also think it took time for him to come into his own as this kind of strengthened offensive presence. I don't think that was there in Toronto, and he was very lucky to get out of there and find himself in an organization that knew what they were doing. And obviously, he won the cup, and I think that he's always had that winner mentality, and we do whatever it takes to win. And I'm so excited for that to come to Calgary, because I think that they've always wanted to win, but they've just given us nothing in terms of energy, effort, passion. Like, there was nothing there. It was very blah. Like, it's like mac and cheese before you put the cheese in it. It's
No,
nothing.
I get it.
Exciting.
You're talking to a Hurricanes fan who's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I get it, of a team that just seems like they did nothing at all to win, no wasting careers. I get it. I 100% get it. I've talked about a lot as of late, with the Hurricanes going into their 25th anniversary season of, Cam Ward. I had him in the inaugural Locked On Hurricanes Hall of Fame. Uh, obviously he has, his prime, he's really good. He obviously won the Conn Smythe in his rookie season, and from like 2009 to 2012, I would probably consider his prime years, but they didn't build around him. You had a few good players. You had Eric Stahl, you had Jordan Stahl, you had Jeff Skinner when he was still decent.
Yeah.
Not necessarily so much
Away in
now.
Buffalo, it's fine.
Whenever he still had promise, I should say. But he was constantly getting overplayed. Playing hurt, never had a quality backup, never had a good team in front of him. Like we were kind of talking about with Brent Burns having to do everything, Cam Ward was having to do everything. And, now we both have teams where it's not falling onto one or two guys. And I think, obviously as a franchise, they've upgraded. I think, both teams in recent years of actually making moves to be competitive.
Right.
But yeah, the Flames, obviously, we were all talking about like when when Gaudreau left, when the Tkachuk, obviously he got traded, but when he was gone,
He
we're all
said, I want
holy
nothing
crap.
to do with this city anymore.
Yeah, it was very much just like, oh crap, it's hitting the fan, up there. But then the moves that Calgary made, they definitely feel like they are a deeper and more well-rounded team this year. It doesn't feel like it's just falling to Gaudreau and Tkachuk. Like,
Yeah.
the load is more spread out. It's not like, all right, if we go and block, and defend these two guys, all right, that's 90% of the job done. That's not the case. And I feel that's very much the case with the Hurricanes as well. They're very spread out and deep. It's not just one or two guys. You got to watch out for everyone out there. And I think that's going to make these two teams very dangerous this year.
I completely agree. And I've watched a lot of Hurricanes hockey because before I covered the Flames, I was religiously covering the Bruins.
Mhm.
And, watching those two teams go at it, I was very surprised. At certain times, like not even just like this past playoffs, I was honestly shocked that like the Bruins won a game. But I just in years past, them going up against each other, I always felt like Carolina was missing something. Like it felt like 90% of the pieces were there. And I felt like they needed, I don't know specifically what, but I knew that they had to kick it up another level in order to take it to the next level.
Mhm.
And I think that since the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals, or conference final,
Yeah.
it's been better. I think that the Hurricanes have kind of shifted as a team. You know, with like I compare them to the Islanders, how the Islanders are making it to the conference final year after year after year. And we like when were they going to the Stanley Cup? They were never. They
Mhm.
never got to it because they just fell off. Like there was no attempt at making the team better. They
Mhm.
just said, "Okay, like we're old. We're just going to sign a bunch of old people." But with the Hurricanes, they were proactive and they knew that they had the talent. Winning the Stanley Cup was a real possibility, still is.
Yeah.
How do we get there? They made the forward motion to get to work towards that goal. And I think that a lot of teams are just kind of okay with being mediocre because they just think like, well, you don't have to be the best and flashiest team to win the Stanley Cup, but you still need talent to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to be the flashiest, but you still have to have the talent there. You uh, literally the perfect example of this on the Hurricanes is Jacob Slavin. He is
Mhm.
not a flashy player at
Not
all,
at all.
and that's why he continuously gets quote unquote underrated or disrespected in terms of like rankings or ratings or anything like that because you're not seeing him, go out there and, put up a bunch of points. He's, going out there and shutting a guy down defensively. So
He's
like the talent,
defending.
yeah, like you don't have to be the flashiest, but you gotta have that talent there. And the Hurricanes, they've done that. They have their young guys there. They got Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, Seth Jarvis. Now, yes, Spirit Company. I mean, Jacob Slavin. I mean, the list goes on. For these young guys, and they put the right veteran guys around them. The big thing, going back to that 2019 conference final, I think it was goaltending. That was a big thing
That
in
was
goaltending in 2019 and in 2020. I think goaltending was very, very big there of why the Hurricanes weren't able to get past Boston in either of those series. And obviously, we saw it this year, postseason offense just drying up entirely. That's obviously a big problem as well. That's been a problem since 2019. And they did what they could to address that, but they upgraded their goaltending. And I remember it. I forget when it was last season, but Steven Stamkos went on our color commentator Trip Tracy's podcast, for an interview. Was talking about it, and he said, this Hurricanes team, right now kind of reminds him of the Tampa Bay Lightning before they got over the hump. It was just like they keep getting there, and they couldn't get over that hump, and like the talent is there and they can do it. It's just getting over the hump. And I think, from a guy like Stamkos, I think that's great praise.
mhm.
And I'm I'm very much looking forward to see what the Hurricanes can do. And like I said, as well, the Flames, they made a lot of good moves. I think they're very much a very deep team this year and a team that could honestly, is probably better than they were last year. Again,
Yeah,
yeah, you lost Johnny Gaudreau. That is a massive blow for sure, and Matthew Tkachuk as well. But
yeah.
look at the guys you brought in. I think they're a deeper team. I think that could carry them longer in the postseason.
Yeah, and you talked about the hump, the
Hmm.
metaphorical hump that all these teams have to, get over. And I think of the Colorado Avalanche, the
Yeah,
reigning Stanley Cup champions, and how every year, okay, Colorado's coming out of the West. Colorado's gonna, it's their year. It's finally their year. And yeah, there were probably years where they should have won the cup and they couldn't do it. And the scary thing about Colorado is how deep of a team they are. You
yeah.
could put any line, like I remember at one point in the season, they had, I think, like their first line was out, or basically like pieces of their top six. And I was like, okay, like this, looking at this roster, it's they're still gonna light the Flames up because it's just that's that's the thing. When you spend time building a team, not only are you building your NHL roster and getting them ready to win, but you're also building your farm system. And
Hmm.
your little baby prospects, your little baby Hurricanes, your baby Flames, and everything else out there. And it's nice watching it come together, especially, like you've been covering the team for a long time. You're a lifetime like Carolina Hurricanes fan. So you've seen it grow. You've watched the progress, and the time for the reward is coming. It's coming. You just have to get
Yeah.
over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, I was 9 when they won the Stanley Cup. I mean, I watched it, like, on one of those old fatback
I
TVs,
was just
like
gonna say there was no flat screen
yeah,
TVs.
exactly. I mean, it was 2006 then, and, like, I'm ready to be rewarded again. I dealt with a decade of pain,
Right?
but, they are, they're a dangerous team. They are a deep team. We talk about, the team that will be there opening night, but, the
Mhm.
farm system, the Hurricanes have a great farm system. I mentioned earlier that they're great at developing young talent. And you talk with, Sarah Avampado from Canes
Yeah,
Country and former, Locked On host, she covers the Wolves. She sees, how good these prospects are. I mentioned Pyotr Kochetkov in goal earlier. We got Jack Jury, who people are having as a lock to make the opening night roster. Jalen Chatfield as well, Stefan Nazin, Ryan Dazingle. He's on a two-way deal, so we'll be seeing him down there in Chicago. He's a veteran presence that can help those guys.
yeah.
I think Calvin Don, Derek Stepan. I think those guys could be looking at two-way deals if that's something they'd be willing to do. And that's just the tip of the iceberg as well. Did I mention Jalen Chatfield? I don't remember if I did, but he's
So,
phenomenal. I think he could really get something for him in the future because he was phenomenal for the Hurricanes last year. In the time we saw him in the NHL, he was a monster in the AHL. And Ryan Suzuki as well. I know he's dealing with some injury stuff, but he's another guy with a lot of potential. And the Hurricanes, they have a very deep team and deep farm system. That's going to be what carries them, and it's going to be very, very fun to watch this season. And we talk about, how these teams have gotten better and whatnot. Talk about, these old teams that, got over the hump, the Lightning, the Avalanche. Another one we failed to mention was the Capitals. They eventually got over it.
yeah.
Uh, these teams that got over it, you know, predictions, expectations, for our teams. Uh, do we think that our teams can get over the hump this year? Jess, what are you predicting from the Flames this year?
I think it's going to be another successful year. I don't expect them to go out there and go 82-0, but I do expect a lot of wins. I expect just a strong performance. I think that this team has something to prove. And whether that is just kind of something to kind of, stick it to Gaudreau and Kachuk and say, you lost out. This is what you could have had.
Like the
Or
Nationals did to Bryce Harper that one year?
yes, exactly. And just kind of, you know, prove it to themselves that they can win. Because I look at this team and I see so many players that deserve to win or deserve recognition, league-wide recognition, or to be a household name. I think Mangiapane is going to score north of 30 goals again. I think that Huberdeau will be another Hart Trophy candidate.
Mhm.
Mackenzie Weegar is going to, God, please sign that extension and have a great year. And I think that him and Chris Tanev are going to work together and be wonderful and just shut down everything that comes their way.
Mhm.
Jacob Markstrom, Daryl Sutter, if this podcast lands on your lap, I hope you're listening right now at this very minute. Jacob Markstrom needs his rest. Dan Vladar is having an excellent preseason. Please let him rest against teams like Arizona, Chicago, even Winnipeg as the season rolls on. We don't need a tired, burnt out Jacob Markstrom for the playoffs. Do I think they'll win the division? Possibly. I think that is a strong possibility. I had them in third before the Kachuk trade, and I would say now that they are a strong contender for first or second. I think,
Yeah.
the Oilers are right there again, kind of applying pressure. And I think that this Flames team will do fantastic under pressure. Daryl Sutter is already in midseason form with his
Mhm.
media presence and
I
his
know.
quote. I listened to his press conference today, or media availability, and I was like, if this man ever spoke to me, I don't think I would ever recover, because he's not being mean to the reporter,
Yeah.
obviously, but just his delivery, like, I would simply never speak again. uh, but yeah, I think that this team is built for something big, and God, I just hope they do something good. I want to see them get to at least the conference final.
Yeah. So I'll give quick Flame predictions, but first,
Yes.
uh, Rod, what she said about Jacob Markstrom, you do the same for Freddie.
Right.
uh,
I will clip this and send it to your emails. I don't have them. I'll make one up, but coming.
but but yeah, so with the Flames, I think I'm gonna pick them to win the Pacific. Uh, I think it'll come down between them and Edmonton. Uh, but I think what'll carry Calgary over is the fact that they have a deeper team than Edmonton. Edmonton, it very much relies on a handful of guys. Calgary, yeah, you're gonna have your guys that are the stars. You're gonna have Nazem Kadri. You're gonna have Jonathan Huberdeau. You're gonna have those guys, of course, but it's a deeper all around team, and I think that's what's gonna carry them and get them that division title. And I do think that they very much can make the conference final. I really, really do. And again, going back to that depth, that is what carries the team in the playoffs, regardless of the sport, whether it's hockey, basketball, football, whatever. You look at the Dallas Cowboys as of late. They're very much a few players. And they get knocked out in the first or second round. You have like the
Playoff.
New England Patriots. Like, yeah, they're not what they were, but you look at how deep those teams were. They won 6 Super Bowls for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised you didn't
No,
have
it's
anything to
true.
say on that, but,
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I grew up in New England.
yeah,
I
I know.
always enjoyed the Super Bowl parties. So,
Yeah.
like, you get free food as a kid and you're like, woohoo, go Patriots. But like I can't get behind it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen this year, though.
No,
But
it's
go listen to Locked On Patriots and Locked On Cowboys for that stuff,
yeah,
because
do
now
that.
we're gonna be, getting back to hockey. But again, I
That's
think,
cool.
yeah, Flames are winning the Pacific. They can very much make a run to the conference final. Getting over Colorado will be a very tough task, so I'm not too keen on putting them that far, though. I do think a conference final run is very much in the possibility. But for the Hurricanes, I think it's gonna come down between them and the Rangers for the division again, just like last year. I think it'll be a fight till the very end, just like last year, because these are two very good teams. But I do think that the Hurricanes' depth and veteran presence will take them over the hump, and they'll have 3 straight division titles, which is, unheard of. Tell a Hurricanes fan that, 6 years ago, that's
No one's buying.
insane. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're getting laughed at and thrown out of wherever you are. But I do think they can very much do that. And I think, the playoffs will be interesting. And I think if the offense can show up,
Yeah.
they can make a run. The predictions that people having, this team making it to Stanley Cup final and potentially winning it, I do think are very much in the cards if the offense shows up. If the offense does not show up, it's going to be a repeat of the past few years of second round exits. I think they're too good to get bounced in the first round, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's if the offense doesn't show up, it's a second round exit again. If it does show up and these guys that you're paying to do this stuff, if Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov, he'll be back, but at that point, Max Paccaretti, Brent Burns, if
Right.
Jesperi Kotkaniemi, yeah, he's going to be a second line center this year. If these guys are showing up offensively, putting the puck in the back of the net, they can make a very, very deep run. And I think Brent Burns has a Norris caliber season this year.
Ooh.
I think Jacob Slavin, he's finally going to get some recognition. I think Sebastian Aho cracks 40 goals. Finally, he's been knocking on that door the past couple years, but kind of like the COVID shortened seasons hurt him there. I think Svetch definitely breaks 30 again. I think he could knock on the door of 40, maybe pushing it a little bit, but I think Freddie Anderson, another Vezina caliber season as well.
I hope so.
I do as well. I think both of our coaches will definitely be in the Jack Adams conversation as
100%.
well. Yeah,
Oh,
these are the Sutter won last year, correct?
he did.
Yeah, I mean, you got the last two Jack Adams winners here, and I think they're gonna those are gonna be the two guys in the conversation. And also, I think the Hurricanes are going to kick the Capitals' butt in the Stadium Series. I had to censor that and keep it rated G. But
Yeah, we keep it kid friendly around here and ad friendly.
yes, but yeah, I think we quick tangent. We talk about the Bruins, and how that used to be. Yeah, the Capitals are very much in that same boat of kind of the very old team that's still kind of hanging on by a thread.
The
Hurricanes have very
teeniest
much
thread. The
exactly.
Bruins. I'm sorry. I love them to pieces, but it's time.
Yeah. And I think the Capitals, same boat. I think the Hurricanes are really going to be beating up on them there at Carter Finley. It's going to be beautiful. I can't wait for it. Hopefully, I don't have to sell a kidney to go.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Very
But
bad.
yeah. But Jess, thank you very much for this crossover. I had a heck of a lot of fun. As we said before recording, hard to believe this is actually our first crossover.
I know. We've both been doing this for 4 seasons?
Yeah, I'm heading into my fourth.
Yeah, same. I came in like right before the pause. So like I guess 4. I don't know,
Mhm.
3.5. But yeah, hard to believe it. This is the first crossover and it's not like either of us jumped in super late to this thing. But thank you for having me. Thank you for being part of my show as well.
Yeah, of course.
Greatly appreciate it. And uh, go listen to Locked On Hurricanes and be nice. I mean, I don't really have like mean viewers or anything, but just leave a
I don't either.
5-star review.
Please, I am very much trying to get my reviews up, get those early days of the show reviews out of there. When we were all like super inexperienced and didn't know what we were doing, got to get those reviews out of there. But of course, Hurricanes fans, go follow Jess. Go listen to Locked On Flames. I know a lot of you guys like the Flames. Go listen to her show.
We
She
have cool
provides
jerseys too.
phenomenal insight. You do have great jerseys. And maybe not the best though. I'm still partial to Arizona on that one.
That's fair. That is fair. I'll
But
give you.
but obviously, guys, go follow myself at Jared Ellis _96. You can see it right there on that lovely. You guys get what I'm doing. The lovely little overlay there. Go follow myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. Go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes. And Jess, where can everyone find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and that is on the screen as well. And of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at LO_FlamesPod. I don't have time to run the show's Instagram. I used to. Now I don't. But maybe someday I'll revive it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely try to make time for it, but I feel you on that one. But guys, have a great rest of your evening, and we will talk to you guys in the next episodes of Locked On Hurricanes and Locked On Flames.